My name is Amnesty, and I want to talk about a couple different things that I learned for this section of class. Well, thus far, we focused on communication, interpersonal communication, and in the beginning of class, I knew a little something about interpersonal communication, communication in general, but I feel like thus far I've learned a little deeper into communication. So I want to focus on a couple different things that I feel like best helped me to, or that I feel like I can best relate back to in my personal and professional life. So the first one is communication. The second one is self-disclosure. The benefits of self-disclosure. The third one is perception. Communication involves different needs. These needs are physical, practical, identity, and social. Physical needs are things such as you needing something. Like, I physically need you to help me, to save me. For instance, military. There could be a time where it's life or death, and you have to have somebody to help you. If not, it could end in a tragic disaster. Uh, Practical are our everyday communication. We need to talk about this, we need to talk about that for school, work, eating, drinking, things like that. Identity is us finding out who we are through people. We identify with certain people to figure out who we are. We communicate with people to see whether we like this or whether we like that. Social is basically building this relationship with an individual. The next thing I want to talk about was self-disclosure, and I want to focus more on the benefits of self-disclosure because I feel like 3 relate back to me. The first one is self-clarification. I feel like self-clarification was something that was important for me to learn, was because it's something that I do, that I tend to do a lot. And I tend to seek out clarification to help me get my problems off, basically get my problems off my chest. Also, self-validation. When I'm talking to people, I tend to want to know if they agree or disagree. So I ask, did I do this right? Or I think I did this right. I think I did the right thing, etc., etc. And the last one that I felt like I related to most was catharsis. And I feel like I relate to that most because I tend to build up emotions. Or as the book says, you're relieving pent up emotions. I tend to do that, and I feel like as a person, we shouldn't do that. It's not healthy. It's not flexible. You shouldn't do that regardless of what's going on. Lastly, I feel like perception is something that is important, and I can relate it back to my personal and professional life because we make snap judgments. We focus on the first impression. We also judge ourselves more charitable than we do others. And we assume that people are like us. So going back to the snap judgments, when you first meet somebody, we make this quick a judgment of who they could be, who they are before we even, talk to them. And I feel like as a college student, many of us do this. Somebody walks past us, we make a quick judgment or a snap judgment of who we think they are, what we think they're about. Because they do this, we be like, it's a negative thing when it could not be. Next would be first impressions. As a human being, we tend to clinch onto our first impression. So we meet somebody and we're talking to them. If they come off as rude, we say, oh, they're rude. So that's their negative first impressions. And that goes back to the halo effect and the confirmation bias. So the halo effect is an impression on positive characteristics. So let's say we meet somebody that's attractive to us physically. that's a good thing. So that's the halo effect. Now the confirmation bias goes along with that because we found something, whether it's negative or positive, we're searching for something to support that opinion. So it's not like it's just an opinion. We're looking for stuff to connect to that opinion. We want to make sure that that opinion makes sense to us and to others. Lastly, we judge ourselves more charitable than we do others. So with this, we tend to focus on the bad that others do. So if I were to fail a test, I would say it's because my teacher didn't prepare me. But if another person failed a test, I would say it was because they were lazy and they didn't want to study, they didn't try, they didn't practice, nothing. So that's the self-serving bias. We're more charitable to ourselves. We feel like outside things affect us, but we feel that inside things affect other people, instead of just us saying that we impacted the grade, we affected this, we did this. We're saying that it was an outside event. Lastly, I feel like we tend to assume that we are the same as another person. So we tend to assume that someone else is like us, when nobody has the same behavior, nobody has the same attitude, nobody has the same motives, tendencies, nothing. But we tend to assume that a person has the same attitude, motives, tendencies, behavior, when they don't. I can relate this stuff back to my personal life, because a lot of the stuff that stood out to me that I learned a little bit more on a deeper level, I do. I have an issue with doing a lot of these things, and it's something that's personal and that should be worked on, and I should look at it a different way. And I feel like this class will help me to look at it in a different way. Professionally, I can learn to take a step back from it. I can learn that I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that, to help me in the professional field that I want to go into, which is social work. So I need to learn to not make snap judgments or make first impressions that tend to be negative. I need to actually be able to be open-minded and have a conversation with them first, and not be judgmental and make judgments of them and feel like I'm doing better than they are, and a bunch of stuff. So with that being said, I have learned a lot of things, and I look forward to learning more. Have a nice night. Bye.